Now, Spartan Construction, how to build RV parks. I imagine they know a little bit more than that. All right, I'll let you guys go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Steve. As Steve said, we build RV parks. With that being said, we don't build slideshows. So give us a little grace on this. We'll get through this. Just to let you know, my name's Landon Scott. Oh, maybe I went too far. No, it's skipping a slide. Oh, yeah, we're right. My name's Landon Scott. I'm one of the PMs and one of the owners of Spartan Construction. I have with me, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Does this work? Yeah. Jake. I'm also co-owner, PM of Spartan Construction. I've kind of been on board with him since inception of it. So it's been fun. It's been good growing it, starting it, and we've learned a lot. Okay, cool deal. But yeah, we've learned a lot in the process. And like I said before, that's kind of what we want to do is help minimize that learning curve. We want to give you the education that we've got so that y'all can better sell to clients, knowing the ins and outs of the RV parks. This is Ethan. He's our superintendent. I'll let him kind
of. Like you said, I'm Ethan Montgomery. I've been in this business almost 20 years in various forms of commercial and residential construction. So I've managed and been a part of all kinds of projects from schools to RV parks to churches to renovations to custom home builds. So I'm kind of specialized on the operations side of things.
So with all that being said, kind of the things that we do is we aren't just the construction company, but we are also the project managers. We are the GCs. Me and Jake and Ethan have dove into this industry, and we specialize in this industry. So it's not you're getting a construction company that builds skyscrapers to come in and build your RV park. We know the ins and outs of this industry. We know what makes this industry work. Like Steve was saying, this is something to help make your clients money. We have parks that have made $1 million on ice cream sales. So yeah, take that into account. $1 million on ice cream sales alone. So it all depends on where you want to be at and what you want your clients or your RV parks to be. We also offer the full construction services wherever we're needed. Kind of one of the benefits of our company is that we can come in when there's either a lack of qualified contractors or there is a lack of knowledge, or it's just resources are hard to get. We can actually bring in our guys to fill in those gaps and kind of mitigate costs as much as we can. Yes, sir. So that's one thing that we do as well. Me, Jake, and Ethan will go out. We can come out and tell you, what are some problems you might come up with on a site? What are some specialty, what are some things in that area that you might need to look forward? So yes, evaluation. We kind of rope that into general contracting and project managing. But yes, sir. And with that being said, if anybody has a question anywhere along the way, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll get those answered the best that we can. So we'll get to that a little bit further into the presentation. Just to kind of jump forward, there is no magic number. We can kind of help you guys out with that as best we can, but it's not a one-size-fits-all type thing. So anybody else? Well, with that being said, I'm going to let Jake. Oh.
So starting off, what's the hype about RV parks? Why are we here? Why is it a big deal? Why are y'all sitting here listening to us? So it's becoming the go-to trend here in America. Camping is fun. Love to do it. Love to bring my tent out. I've got 2 toddlers. It's harder to do. We're looking at buying an RV ourselves because we do a lot of traveling. There has been just under 100% increase in campers since 2020. We have started camping more since then. It's just COVID happened. We wanted to get out. We wanted to have fun. We wanted to be in the outdoors. The tent stuff was just getting a little bit difficult. More than 92 million people in the U.S. consider themselves campers. And I think we kind of skip a slide. Go to the next one. No, that's not the next one. So there's a lot of people that are switching from traveling to living in these RVs. A lot of people are switching from brick and mortar homes to these RVs. They're a little bit more affordable. You're able to move. So kind of going back to me and my family, we travel a lot, this and this. This is not a consideration for us. We're not looking to move into an RV, but there's a lot of people that are finding it more affordable to do this. So as far as selling goes, you're going to find a lot of people who are looking to build these parks as permanent residences. There's going to be a lot of people looking to add the amenities like laundromat, stuff like that. You can grow your money in the RV park more than just a rental site. Your question about how much does the pad cost? The pad itself is just the start of where you can make money on these parks. You know, ice cream sales, you can add amenities, you can do this, and this. What a lot of people are doing is making this into a place to live. They're making it comfortable. They're making it desirable to be there long term, as opposed to me just taking a trip over the weekend. That's a big thing right now, is shifting to a more long-term solution in RV parks. The baby boomer generation makes up about 20% of our overall population. A lot of the generations to follow are doing the same. Or sorry, they make about 20% of the population. They are the ones who are kind of leading this shift into RV park living. A lot of the younger generations are following that suit. So one of the hardest things is finding a good RV park. I can travel. Where did we go? Somewhere in Livingston. It's an RV park. Nobody manages it. It's run down. It was not comfortable. There was no amenities. It's a good place to park a camper, but that's about it. Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
What is there a big difference between a KOA and just somebody else's RV park?
Do you want me to? So the big thing with KOAs, and a lot of people don't know this, KOA is actually a franchise. So you can come in. So we actually work for a big real estate company here in Houston, and they own probably 20 or 30 of these parks, and they own a few KOAs underneath their brand. So a KOA, and there's different levels of KOA. The KOA holidays typically just have a water park and stuff like that. And then you get, there's one above and there's one below that. The KOA holiday is kind of the middle grounds. And you have one that's below that is more of just your roadside, you know, we're driving through and need a place to stop for the night and don't want to stop at a truck stop. Then you have your KOA holidays that have a few more amenities, but they're not much. And then you have your up, and they're the ones that you see with the giant water parks and the jumping pillows and things of that nature. So that's that kind of the answer to that question. No worries. Go ahead.
So in the ones that we've built, they're going to be all the same site. A lot of the regulations and stuff are being set by the park themselves. There's rules about, hey, you can only stay this long. A lot of the government parks, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Parks, Army Corps of Engineers, they set limits on how long you can stay. And that I don't have the proper answer for you, but there may be a federal deal there just because of the owner of the park. When it comes to the KOAs, the Jellystone, stuff like that, you're looking at more of a park by park basis. Some of them, some franchises, some chains will allow long-term stays, some will not.
Yeah, so we haven't, but we haven't had any federal regulations amongst any of the parks that we've worked on across the country. Not to say that they're not there, but we haven't encountered any of that when it comes to the federal sides. As Jake was saying, you get into the ownership and who owns the park, and they regulate whether or not they want you to stay for 6 years or they want you to stay for 6 months. As he was saying, just to give for example, the Army Corps of Engineers only allows you 14 days on a park. So after that 14 days, you have to move sites. And I think after so many months, you have to actually move parks because they don't want you to take up permanent residence there. So
that's what I was said, that some of his tenants have to like just drive out the park and drive back like 30 days.
Yeah.
Just so they're not considered long-term residents.
Yep. And there are those instances where in this specific area, this specific county, that does happen, but we haven't encountered any of that.
So, jumping back on where we were, this park that we were at in Livingston, it was, like I said, it was nice. We got out in nature. There was not a lot of stuff. In this first deal, this limited space was one of the hardest things about that park. That's kind of what I want to start with to bring to your attention. A lot of people get too caught up in I'm trying to save money to build, or I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. If you get too stingy with building it, if you don't appropriate your budget properly, you're going to end up with a park that's too hard to navigate. I can't pull in with a trailer. I can't navigate with a trailer, or I have to set size limitations on trailers that can come to my park. Sorry.
You're jumping ahead. I was trying to help you out.
You're good. So size does matter. The park size is going to play a huge role in your occupancy. Like I said, if I have a 42-foot fifth wheel trailer, there's a lot of parks nowadays that will not accommodate me to go in and live there. Kind of jumping back on the permanent residence deal. If I'm going to live in an RV, I want to be a little more comfortable than a, short little 10-foot backpack camper. I want to make sure that if I'm looking for a park, I can find a park that I can adequately park my unit in. This picture is a really great example. There's two different RV sites here. There's back-end sites, there's pull-through sites. This park was designed to be ergonomically functional. I can pull in this way, I can back in with my RV, or we can come in this way. It's a pull-through. The park that we were at in Livingston, it was a very difficult, the roads were narrow, the sites were small, and they were all packed in really close together. I took a class back in college, and we talked about appropriating space for parking lots. You want to fit as many parking spots into a parking lot as possible. In an RV site, we want to avoid crunching everybody together. We want to make sure that there's room for turning, room for maneuvering, room for driving, and room for comfort in between sites.
Is upper right. That looks almost like a manufactured housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in this park specifically, there are tiny homes. They're basically a 12-foot by 30-foot cabin. They are on a mobile home frame that can be transported. What we did here is they were brought in from a third-party company. They were dropped.
Is this one that y'all did?
Yes.
This is a park that we've done.
So any photos that I'm going to interrupt for just a second, any photos that you see here are parks that we've actually built. So if you see it on here, we've done it.
This is actually one park. Yes.
Oh, and this isn't even half of it. This park here is actually in Bryan, Texas. This is an 80-acre park. This photo here doesn't show you half of the park. This park alone has 86 tiny homes and 326 RV spaces. So it's got a lot of room for, people to come in and stay. Kind of one of the big things that the owners of this park wanted to do was to reach the football crowd of A&M. So this is kind of the focus of this park, is to reach those game time, whether it's ring day, football games, basketball games, baseball games, any event that A&M has. That's what this park was focused around. So yes, so one of the biggest things with that is the regulation on tiny homes. A lot of municipalities will consider them trailer houses, and that sets you in a whole different class where you come into the mobile home park. And we don't want to be classified as a mobile home park because there's a lot more regulations that come with that. So these tiny homes are actually on wheels, have their axles. They comply with Nancy 119, which defines the difference between a tiny home and a camper. So these guys are 100% campers. We actually have another manufacturer that we're fixing to start dealing with that is making them even more campers, with a wastewater tank and a few other amenities to make sure that there is no question that these are campers. So
essentially what you're looking at, the tiny homes Per building standards, those are just additional RV sites with an RV parked on them. That is the goal with the tiny homes, is to eliminate the permitting, the restrictions and everything like that of a mobile home park.
So getting back to regulations, not park regulations, but building and construction regulations. You guys take care of all that, right?
Yes, so we can work with local municipalities, cities, everything like that. We actually have these permitted as RVs. So all of those are permitted. Everything is good to go. We've had to do our full electrical inspections, plumbing inspections, building inspections, and all of them have an individual CO.
So if we have a client, we recommend y'all. Are you mainly involved in the building of it, or do you charge them for everything? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, they're gonna have to pay for the land, they're gonna have to pay for the sites and things like that, but what would they pay you to plan their park?
So we can take from step 1 all the way to 100. We have an architect that we work with. You can come to us with an idea. You can come to us with a shape, a size, a property. You can say, I would like this. Give us a couple of weeks. Let us design something, see what you like. The design fees will vary, but we can get a preliminary design put together, see if it's something that you're interested to do. We can take it from there. So we can start. Yes, sir. So once we get our design, if you like the design, everything's good to go, we can get that initial draft done. The initial draft, we can begin doing takeoffs on, what's concrete going to cost, what's gravel going to cost, what's landscaping, everything. And that's where, after that design, you like the design, we can sit down, we can meet up, we can talk about the specifics of what you want in your park.
Is this paid for by the school?
This is all private funded. Privately funded, yep.
Have any kind of data or statistics to let you know what kind of metrics the park will be doing if they develop?
So that's a very difficult one. No. Just to answer it simply, no. We can run statistics. So, for example, we're building a park personally for ourselves in the Arkansas area, and we know the area. We can pull if there. I say no. I'm going to backtrack on that. If there are other RV parks in that area, yes, we can kind of pull some statistics, but it's hard to tell what's going to happen. If you know the area and you know what's people are coming to that area for, you can kind of gauge that. If I go on to a camping site and I go to click a weekend that's a month or 2 month out and their entire sites are booked up, I'm kind of getting a little interested in that. And then I go to the next RV site that's close to that area and they're booked up as well. You can kind of tell that way, but there is no mathematical formula that we can say.
Based on RV traffic.
Correct. Yep. Yes. Yes. No, sir. No, sir. 3.
So just to
Yeah.
tag team on that one, I actually had a gentleman that I was friends with. He approached me and he was like, "Hey, I've got 1 acre out in the country. What can I do to put some RV sites on there?" He's like, "Can I do 5? Can I do 10?" If you look on Airbnb right now, there are people Airbnb single RV sites.
The driveway.
They own a lot
Yeah.
in Galveston. They're Airbnb 1 single RV site. It's got a cover on it. You can bring your RV there. You can camp there for the weekend. And all I've got to do is get on the website. I can book it. I can book it a year in advance for 1 site.
So saying. Depends on the area and the municipality. Yes, and so for example, Colorado, yes, there are sticklers. In here in Bryan in Texas, there is a little bit. That's kind of why this area here was left alone. So that way we could yes. Do we have to plan for detention? So like water, rainwater, stuff like that. So yes, that does. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yep. Nope. That's definitely a myth. It's all about how much you put in it. I mean, for example, if you have a piece of property that's just say a lot, that's a very low-lying lot, it's going to be very difficult, have to be brought in a lot of dirt to bring it in. As long as your local municipality does not care about the utility sides of that things, or utility sides, where it is, you're looking at, and I'm just spitballing numbers here, you're looking at $10,000 for that site if you did a really nice site with gravel, electric, water, power, sewer. $10,000 for a site, you're thinking, well, that's $10,000. Yeah. Well, and it's not that would not be a concrete pad. That would be a gravel pad. Yeah. Um, but you say $10,000 on this site, if it's in a good area like Galveston, you can rent that thing out for $150 a night. You look at your weekends, there's 52 weeks in a year. So there's 102, 104 weekends roughly. I mean, you do the math, 150 times 104, it's paid for in a year's time. So everything after that is passive income. It depends on how extreme or how simplistic you want to go. If you're talking about the one site on a spot in Galveston, there's very little lawn maintenance. If you're talking about a park this size, yes, there's a full staff. There's a full staff. They have maintenance guys. They have electricians. And I say electricians, they have guys that are handy in electrical. They have guys that are handy in plumbing. When you get to a park this size, there is a lot of maintenance and upkeep, but yeah, there's a lot to be done when you're. Yes, sir. Yep. When you have 300 and something RV guests, there's bound for something to happen. So you got to have that staff on site. But one of the ways they mitigate that staff, and we're going to probably end up bouncing around all over this thing, but one of the ways they mitigate the staffing cost on this is they offer a lot of paid activities. So if you think of like a Jellystone, for example, a lot of time they do pottery classes or stuff like that, where they have those staff members that are, they're quote unquote plumbers or they're quote unquote electricians that have to be on staff managing these events that are paid. So it's not just little Johnny's sitting over there waiting for somebody to have a sewer backup. So any other questions for? Yes, sir.
You ever see it compensate staff?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yep. So that is actually pretty much every park that we've been to that has full-time staffing. That is something that they do.
What they'll do, they'll set a minimum number of hours to work. So if you work your 40 hours, 10 of those hours go towards your lot rent. And it'll vary by park. It'll vary by owner. At this park in particular, I believe it's 10 hours. Once you hit your 10 hours, your lot rent is paid. And anything after that is going to be your income.
These are RVs, pool, or if they want to park their
Motorhome. Yes.
But you have electricity going to the site. What do they do? I mean, do you have to have sewage or?
Yes. So let's just skip around here. Let's just do that. So this is a new construction. This is one that we're just doing. This picture was actually taken Tuesday. So if you can kind of see here, and I'm going to use this maybe. It's not going to work. Anyways, so right here you can see all of these little boxes. That is what we call in the industry, it's your pedestal. So that houses your water, your power, and your comms. Then if you look very closely, you can see little stakes that are going a line just right along there. And that's where your sewer goes. So most of these places, and that's not something that you have to have. I will tell you that is a big amenity in an RV park to have an actual sewer system, but it is not a requirement. Any other questions on that or? Come on, let's. Yeah. No, they're not. Some of them can be. Yeah. Mhm. Oh yeah. Mhm. Yep. So yeah. Nope. So you can say it's inexpensive, but the one thing that a lot of people A lot of people do. So I have a father-in-law, or no, not my father-in-law, my grandfather-in-law. He actually has a motorhome, and he has a $340,000 motorhome that he pulls with his truck. That's not a motorhome; it's a camper. But you ask yourself, $340,000 in downtown Houston, that's not that big of a house. But when you go outside of College Station, that's a good amount of money for just about anybody on a house, let alone a camper. But the thing is, can you take your house with you to the Bahamas or to Yellowstone or to the Smoky Mountains? Well, there are ferries that go across there. I don't know if they can take campers, but the Bahamas would probably be a little tough one. But taking them anywhere in the continental U.S. and Canada and Mexico, can you take your house with you? Yeah, but so people are investing a lot of money in these things to be able to travel and see these things.
So whenever
Mhm.
you've got a tank for each side.
Nope, no, sir.
Is
So yes, it's a whole underground system that we have. So this system particularly is an aerobic system. But now, yes, so this is an aerobic system. So what it's all going to do is it's all go back to this back corner over here, and we have a wastewater treatment plant that we're installing. Once it goes through that wastewater treatment plant, it comes out, and we're planting trees at each one of these sites. And that water, once it gets treated, yes, we're gonna water our trees with our clean wastewater. And this has all been regulated by the state. This water is super clean. It's not drinkable clean, but it's not the kids out there playing in sewage water. You know, this is 250 to 240. Mhm. Yeah.
So for that site, what to get it to where you can start having people pull it in,
Mhm.
which cost?
Are you gonna have any amenities? Or do you want this?
That.
You want this.
All that.
So if you want to do this right here, and you're not putting in a water park or you're not putting in a activities hall, if you're doing that, and these are rough numbers, you cannot quote me on any of these numbers. But you're looking, huh? We're looking at anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 a site. And that's very rough, very vague numbers there. Once you start adding your amenities to it, we typically try to do a per site cost, whether you have the amenities or not, just because for the most part, where you're going to make your money is your site. That's going to be your number one spot. You got to get them in there to get them to spend anything else inside your park. Yes, sir. Mhm. No, sir. Sewer is not a requirement either. So most of these, most of your, I say it's not a requirement, it is definitely a luxury that people look for. So when you go to a lot of these RV parks, most of them will have water and power, but you get some parks that do not have sewer at all just because it doesn't make sense to put sewer in. And that's something that they have to go. If you've ever looked at a lot of these roadside service station or not service stations, but roadside rest areas, they have sewer dumps there. And so these guys, when they're traveling or going to the next spot, that's where they'll empty their tanks. Now, that's definitely something that we try to get away from, just because, yeah, yeah. But we try to stay away from it just because it limits you.
Say that's $15,000 to $20,000 a site.
Mhm.
Does that include your cost?
Depends. So that's why I say it's a very hard number to pinpoint. Roughly,
Because I mean, it depends on the
right. Yeah, and that's what makes it fluctuate. For the most case, yes, that's gonna include your land cost. But there are some instances where no, it's just if you when you include your land cost, you're probably getting closer to the 30 or 40,000. Depends. Definitely in Texas. Texas trees do not like to be worked around at all. But you go to Arkansas or Colorado, you got a little bit more leniency on that.
Get incentives from the city, the county, the state for water treatment, for
No, it's typically they twist our arm and make us do that stuff. Yeah, they don't ever give us a good pat on the back and say, "Hey, thanks for planting 200 trees." It's a, "Hey, if you want to build this, you got to plant 200 trees." So, yeah.
And just to tag team on your
Yeah.
site costs and stuff like that, we're talking about site cost for this park. The company that's doing this particular park, there's a lot of stuff that they're doing above and beyond.
Yes.
The pedestals they're using, in my opinion, are overkill. They're a very high quality. They've got a lot going on. The pedestal, they're going to be these small little. That's what you're going to hook up to your RV. These pedestals have both a 50 amp, a 30 amp for two different types of RVs. It's got an outlet, it's got a light, it's got two hooks, it's got a meter on it so they can manage utility usage. They've got water built in, they've got coax built in. So these sites are kind of your more top of the line. You're looking at very nice equipment. You're looking at
Yes.
very nice sites. So the cost that we're giving you on these in particular are going to be, you've got everything. You've
Yeah.
got a fire pit, picnic table, all in one pedestal. You've got sewer, you've got concrete pads with an additional eating area.
So on this one though, your cost is around $5 million.
Mhm.
Get it done. Okay. Your term in terms of turnaround, your break even is how many years?
So this park, I'm going to let you handle the numbers because I will get lost in them. But this park actually already has reservations as soon as it opens.
Yeah.
This park is 15 to 20 minutes out of Austin. And the intent of this park is to house temporary workers working in the Austin metropolitan area. So picking your location is going to be a big key in how quick you get your money back.
So to bounce off of what Jake said, your return, your how many years it's going to take to get your money back. I'll give you, for example, we're building a park in Arkansas, and it's my park personally. It's going to cost us right at $8 million to build it. With the amenities that we're putting in, we should have our money back within 6 years. Mm-hmm.
This, you're surrounded by land, so if they get full, is it the same owner that has all that other land too?
Nope, this is what they were able to purchase, this kind of weird little shape. I'm sure if it come down to it and the money was right, some of those guys would sell. But one of the things that this company that we work for, when they're looking at building a park, they're always looking at, is there a potential to expand if this one blows up? So I'm sure they have it in mind that, hey, if we offer this guy here with these cows enough money, he'll probably sell. And we offer this people that own this farm back here enough money, they'll probably sell. But we want to start off and see what this area is going to do before we, yes, sir. No, sir. No, this one is still under construction. This will be an asphalt road with a concrete ribbon and concrete pads. I thought that you had a question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, that really is a hard number to pinpoint down. But yes, for the most part, that's going to cover your pedestal. That's going to cover your RV site. That's going to cover your concrete pad. That's going to cover your $1,000 picnic table, your $500 fire pit. That's going to cover most of that stuff. But again, it's not and for the most part, it does. But there will be. Yep. So every one of these circles are a fire pit.
Every single one of our employees was cussing us when we had them assemble them.
Yes. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Are these
Yes. And so I know what you're fixing to say is you're probably paid $20 a square foot. Yeah. So yeah.
so there's no need for extra thickness due to price?
Nope. Most of them are about 4.5 to 5.5 inches thick. We use 4,000 PSI with typically number 4 rebar. We haven't had any issue. The only issue we've ever had was the fire pits are not supposed to stay on the concrete, and people left them on the concrete and got a really hot fire, and it did crack just a little bit, nothing major. but that has happened before.
And a big point on that concrete is your foundation work underneath
Yes.
it. As so long as that pad is being prepped properly, if I were to just pick a piece of dirt, throw some concrete, if I put something heavy on it, it's going to crack. If I go in and I compact the pad underneath it, if I, provide soil cement, stuff like that to stabilize the land underneath the site, it's going to aid in the stability of that concrete.
No, I guess I could do that.
What is that thing right next to the fire pit? What is that?
This?
What is that again?
You're talking about this? That's just so that's what we ran all of our fiber conduit through. Yeah, so we have a big mess of them. So one thing we try to do. Yeah, so they do have one running underneath every one of them. That's what we use to run our Cat5 and for our TV and internet and stuff like that. What we do is we try to order in bulk. That's how we can get our prices to the prices that they were. And I thought that's where you were going with your concrete example, was how can we get the prices at that? But that's enough conduit to run for, that's actually 2 parks worth of conduit for fiber. Nope. We provide internet, and I say we provide internet. It is a possibility. Yes, yes, an amenity, exactly. Yes, a lot of them have Wi-Fi. They're starting to stray away from the plug in your cable to get the TV and all this and that. Most of them are going to a very high quality Wi-Fi system because everybody's streaming nowadays. So,
and in these, they're actually doing both. So part of the pedestals, like I was saying, it's all inclusive. They have attachments on them to do TV and internet. But in addition to this, at the Park and Bryan that we're building, there are Wi-Fi towers spread throughout. They specifically place them to create a Wi-Fi mesh over the park. Anywhere in the park, you can use your phone, tablet, computer, whatever, connect to their service. If you're in your RV, you can tie in a coax line to watch local TV channels. You can put your own router in there. That way you can have a private internet network as well.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. So whenever you're talking to your people who, say somebody's going to come to this site, do they traditionally ask you what amenities you have in the way of Wi-Fi and all that, and that makes a difference as to whether they come to yours or the next door?
Yes, and that goes a lot into marketing, making sure that you can see that on your website. I want to tell people you can have internet at your cabin, you can have internet at your RV on my website. That's going to draw me in. You have teenagers, they won't get off their phone. They're going to want to stay connected. So that's a big selling point. And kind of tying back into, you want to live here full time, you want convenient access to internet. And kind of straying to a Wi-Fi, wireless connection only, it's great, it's awesome. But if I'm working out of my RV, if I'm working out of my fifth wheel, whatever I've got, I want to make sure that I've got, for one, a private connection, a stable connection, and I can do that with internet there on my site.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You guys run a specific number per acre?
It really just depends. We like to utilize. We want to know what your client wants. Are we packing these things in here like this right here? Or, so this park here, for example, is geared towards the growth of Austin. This is welders coming in, plumbers coming in from out of state that are working on the Gigafactory or the Amazon plant. Anything that's going on in Austin, that's what this park is focused towards. If you go back to this park here, where it is focused towards Texas A&M and those events that are going on, they try to give them a little more space and where they can kind of get out. And I wish I had another photo of it. Maybe I don't. But they want to give them a little more space where they can see, they're not right on top of each other because they're going to spend more time at their camper. So as the spot per acre really just depends on what you or your client wants. Yes, sir.
like well water? Have you ever done that in the park?
So we have done well water. We have not generated our own electricity. That is something that we're considering at our park in Arkansas, is doing a lot of solar. We're not going to generate enough for what we need, but we're going to try to supplement as much as we can with solar power. Yes, just backup power, kind of mitigate some of because the biggest thing with an RV is they're going to pull the most power in the middle of the day when their ACs are on. So to try to mitigate some of that, that's something that we're playing around with. So, yes, ma'am. In an acre? No, we don't necessarily have an average because it all depends on what your client wants. You can, as example, this is a 25-acre spot, and we put 240 RV sites in it. So if you can break that down as to, what is it? This is 25 acres, 10 per acre, yeah. My math brain wasn't quite working just then, but so it's 10 per acre. But it can be, that's about the most you want to go. It can be a lot less than that. Mhm.
Smaller than a tiny house. It's like for people that are there, if they have guests come for the weekend or something, and stay at the cottage.
Yeah, so you're talking of, we have a park that has that in Wisconsin, and they're more of just, also in Colorado, they're more of just you walk in, it's a room, you have a microwave, a mini fridge, more like a hotel, essentially. So
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, this is more operations. On a site like 1,000 temporary workers,
Mhm.
they typically have some kind of inside security.
So a lot of our parks do have security systems on them. Being they have Wi-Fi, they have Wi-Fi towers up, so it's the perfect opportunity to put cameras up as well. So all of our parks that we've built have been gated. You have to have a code to get in. Again, that only stops an honest person, but most of them are gated. So, and again, with the security systems.
You have a C-store at the front, you could have somebody who's actually running.
Yes. Yeah. And most of them have a store at the front. As you can see this one here, they have a store up front. That's where they're going to sell a lot of their merchandise. That's where people are going to check into. This is the same, this park and this one are the exact same. So this is a drone footage from the front of it looking back. And this is from midway looking forward, just for an example. But yes, they have a store up front. This one's actually going to have a water park on the side of it, a few little other amenities. Storage units. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. This one is located in Elgin, Texas.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the park that we're doing in Arkansas, we just went to a local bank, and that kind of gets into something else that we talked about in the whole process of it. So just to give you a little backstory, we're doing a park personally. We had the park design. We made a deal on the land. Everything was good. We even got approved for the $8 million to build the land, but we had to spend our 25% up first, and we didn't quite have that capital because we were steadily growing our company. And so in that point, we brought in outside investors to invest. But for the most part, it's typically, I'm sure there's some banks that will stray away from it, but we found that if you're going to an area, especially a really hometown area, a local bank would love to be in a part of something like that. You got a question as well, sir? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll kind of get back on this and see if we can drum up some more questions.
So another deal with the parks, we were kind of talking about space. We're talking about maneuverability on the park. Another deal is power. As you're constructing the park, whether you're renovating, whether you're building new, we want to make sure there's adequate power. We kind of described the pedestals. We described that there's 30, 50 amp outlets on the pedestal. You could hook your RV up to it. What a lot of times gets forgotten about is there are additional things that get plugged into these pedestals. You've got a pedestal, you've got outlets, and we actually just, in taking some drone footage, we just got a picture of somebody with a 50 amp camper plugged into it on a 50 amp breaker and is charging their Tesla on the same on the same pedestal. And it's one of those new toys, new problems kind of deals. We want to make sure that whether you're purchasing an old park, making sure that power is adequate for the newer, the $340,000 motor coach or the $70,000 bumper pool camper, a lot of these are pulling more power than they did before. If you're building a new park, it needs to be upsized and you need to be prepared for larger units to be in there, for more power to be pulled, for Teslas to be charged. So with that, that is a consideration to take into account when you're building a new park. When you're renovating a park, there needs to be power checks. You need to make sure that you've got the proper sized equipment, the proper sized wire, because the last thing you want to do is get into a park. It's an older park. It's cool. It's fun, but you can't keep up with the times. You can't keep up with everybody's new RV. You can't keep up with everybody's new equipment, and you're going to run low on power. Amenities is another big thing around the parks. What is there to do? If I build a park out in the middle of nowhere, are they going to come to my park? Are they going to be able to get groceries? Are they going to be able to get X, Y, and Z? Or am I going to need to provide those in my park? There's a Jellystone in Waller. If every time we go there, we have to make sure that we pack a whole box of food because grocery stores, it's inconvenient to drive 20 minutes down the road to try and get, I don't know, an extra case of water, a case of sodas, or the Jellystone there does. That's what I'm saying is that, so they have it on site because there's not one nearby. So keeping into account amenities nearby. What are some parks that may have some amenities nearby?
So if you look at one of the biggest ones that come to mind would be our park in Colorado that we've done. We did a KOA in Colorado Springs. And it is one of those mid-range parks where they have a few amenities, but people aren't coming there for those amenities. They're kind of some little extra thoughts while they're there. Colorado, you have Pikes Peak. You have there's a mess of it. It's Colorado. It's beautiful. It's right there at the crest of the mountains. There's many things that are right there. And then you have a bunch of your necessities that are close by. There's a Walmart within 5 miles, things of that nature. So that park doesn't stock a whole lot of stuff where it comes groceries wise. They have some marshmallows and chocolates for s'mores and stuff like that, but you're not going to go in there and get your case of soda or, your breakfast food for the next morning because there's so much stuff close by. Yes, sir. So me personally, with Spartan, we've been doing this right at 2 years. Me personally, for other adventures, I've been in this 4. Jake's pretty close to about the same, about 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Correct. Mm-hmm. So it's to be 100% honest, it's hard to tell. I mean, like you said, COVID sparked off this industry, and it's just the fastest growing industries in the country right now. To answer your question, as of right now, there's no sign of it stopping. Is there going to be a plateau? Of course, it's like anything else. But I would almost be willing to say within the next 10 years, we're still going to be having these booms. I don't know if we're going to be able to build 5,000 RV parks a year and still have the, still have the growth and the revenue because there's going to be so much going on. But I think those people that set themselves up and make their park a destination or focus themselves around a destination. Right. Exactly. So in my personal opinion, and again, this is a personal opinion, these parks are going to slow down. Yeah, right now Austin's growing, Austin's booming. Once that shift passes, there's going to be another park, closer to where the work is going to be at. So these parks are not my ideal investment. Do they make money in a short amount of time? Yes. So for example, I'm originally from Arkansas. There's a little town called Osceola. It's right on the Mississippi River. If you would have told me 3 years ago Osceola was going to be a booming place, I'd have told you were crazy. Big River Steel and Nucor announced 2 big plants that they were putting in that area. This was a place that before you could rent a 2,000 square foot house for $1,000 a month. We have a friend that built a work focused RV site that he knows in 6 years, whenever this work is done, is not going to make any money. So he built it to the bare minimum, but he's renting his sites out for $800 a month. He invested $30,000 into that place, and he's got 15 RV sites making $800 a month. Yes, sir. Yeah.
What would be the cost of construction?
And that's what a lot of people do. So, for example, this park, yeah. So this park here is one of the biggest parks we've worked in. I want to say it's right at 150 acres, maybe, pretty close to 150 acres. This place has, I'm going to be willing to say right at 600 RV sites. We just installed, as of last year, 56 new tiny homes. There was about another 20 tiny homes that were still fairly up to date. And then I forgot who it was that said about the cabins, just the 1 bedroom. They had about another 30 of those cabins. So if you can hit both sides of it, that is the way to go. Typically right now they're running right at about anywhere from 80 to 90,000. Yes, well, that's fully furnished.
I was gonna say those come.
Yes.
The inside is painted, the lights are on, there's furniture inside.
Only thing you have to do is put sheets on the bed and TV's up. Yes, ma'am. Mhm. So that's where we want to keep that regulation to it being a camper because it's not a permanent structure. So therefore you don't have to pay personal property taxes on. In most municipalities, and municipalities that we have worked with, if they are considered campers, they're not permanent structures. So the taxes have not been the same. Same thing. Those are campers.
As long as the tongue and the axles stay with the unit,
Mhm.
most places will consider them still mobile.
Yep. All those are mobiles. Yep.
The city of Houston needs
We can hide it. Yep. So that's one of our biggest things, and that's what this next manufacturer that we're fixing to work with is supposed to do. Because we do have some municipalities that fight us on this, is like these things aren't campers, and we can go through all of these things and show them, hey, yes, we comply with Nancy 119. These things are campers. They're permitted as campers. They have the tags the same as campers. But the one thing that the company that is trying to mitigate all that stuff is they're adding a storage tank for water, and they're adding a plug-in versus these things being hardwired in. So that way they cannot fight us anyway on these things being permanent structures. They're campers that we put skirting around, and at any moment's time, we can haul them out of there. It's a beautiful place, though. Warrens, Wisconsin is where that's at. It is cold. It does get cold. Yeah.
Anyways, just to recap on are you a destination or are you the destination? Talking about amenities nearby, stuff like that. pick your location properly. If you're looking to do a lower level park, entry level park, put it next to a Six Flags, put it next to something fun. The Margaritaville parks, a lot of them, they're nice parks, they're high quality. There's not a ton to do on all of them. There's one on Bolivar Peninsula, just over by Galveston. All it is a flat site, and you go for the beach.
Hmm. That's where our park is. Mhm. Yeah. So, for example, you talk about being in a floodway and a floodplain. I worked on a park when I was just a project manager for another company in, you know where I'm talking about. What was the name of the town? Kerrville, in Kerrville, Texas, right on the Guadalupe River. It was technically in a floodplain. Um, we got tiny homes down there. I wasn't a part of doing that. There's some things that happened. But with that being said, we can build in floodplain areas. We just have to take into account what their rules are. Most of the time, we set our breaker boxes or our switch gear up past the floodplain. So if we know a floodplain's coming, we can shut everything off and everything be fine. We clean everything out, swap a few breakers, and we're good to go. Exactly. Yep. If the horn sounds and there's a flash flood coming, they hook up and get out. Cleveland on 15. Okay.
Right.
Hmm.
If you go up just a few of them, back to the Bryan Park. So this one here, a lot of this buffer area is actually a creek. So a lot of the design of the RV parks takes into account excess floodwater, excess rainwater. Further off to the side that y'all can't see, there's another creek that runs through, and what they've done is they have used the layout of the land to prevent flooding issues on this park. A lot of this area in Bryan will hold water. You're not that far off from the river. You're not that far off from a floodplain. There's about 20% of this park that is in a floodplain. But what they're doing is they're retaining the current creeks and rivers. They're adding them as a visual to the park. It's beautiful. It's pretty. You can see the nature, but they're utilizing them by keeping them in place, keeping the vegetation in place to allow water to be taken care of without having to add additional measures.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We take all of that into consideration whenever we're building.
Can build in the flood.
Depends on the municipality. I will say that 100%. I know in Kerrville we were good. A place in Arkansas that I've done work on, you're good. It really just depends on the municipality and how you structure that. A lot of times they throw different regulations at you, but that's where I was saying in the beginning where if you have a spot, in most cases, you have a spot that's kind of unusable for anything else, hauling in too much dirt, wouldn't be worth it. An RV park might be a good idea, just depending on what your municipality says.
And it's very similar to building a house in a floodplain. There's just regulations. It has to be on stilts. It has to be X number of feet above the max flood level of the area. That Bryan Park that we were showing you, it was designed to put all of the tiny homes right above the flood level. They're up on cinder blocks and they are far enough away from the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain, to omit them from being at risk of flooding.
Dude, okay. I guess this is my part of it. I think we've actually covered quite a bit of this. But just kind of what does a RV park construction look like, Matt? And things is kind of what happens underground. That's most of the construction of an RV park is underneath the park itself. So you're going to have quite a bit of the conduits and everything, the sewers, the systems. The dirt work is probably the vast majority of the work that goes into an RV park. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So, one of the biggest hindrances that we'll have on building an RV park, obviously, is weather. Everything is outside. Most everything that you do is outside. So, whether you're going to be way up north somewhere where you're going to have a large snowy season to where you may not be able to work for a month, or just a hard rain to where you kind of got to play catch up as it goes. Weather's going to hit or miss, everything through that. And considering that it is outside, it's hard work, there's a high employee turnover, so you do kind of get a dips and rises and everything in that. So sometimes construction peaks, and then sometimes great opportunities happen down the road, and everybody leaves, and you got to start fresh and pick everything back up from there. And then materials is a big thing that you want to make sure that all of your materials are secured as early as possible, because that can give you a huge roadblock in it, because a lot of these parks, they are specifically geared to where infrastructure is coming in, and a lot of things that are going to be building up and going in that area. A lot of materials are going to be going fast, that as soon as they come into the warehouse, as soon as they come in, they're immediately going back out. So that's one big roadblock that you could hit. So you want to make sure all that is set in early. And just on acquisitions, obviously we kind of talked about earlier, that your location is a big thing of it, and securing your land, and what are the amenities around it? What is the kind of RV park that you're going to want to get? Is this something that is not so worried about the amenities, just more of a place for people to sleep because of all the work coming through, all the workers coming up, the new infrastructure being put in? Or is it, he said, coming near a new body of water, a ski slope coming around, or just a bunch of event parks that are in the area? Just people need more places to stay. So that's where you would consider, are you looking for more of a destination park, more of just kind of a hotel place to stay, or they're just somewhere to park their place between, the working hours? This one we're kind of flying through. I think we've covered most of this already as we've kind of jumped around, but that's kind of, things, what deciding is what are the needs for your area, as you're looking for something to be a destination, just to be a place to sleep, or, is it a place to support the existing destination that you have around you?
And if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in. Can you go back one? Go forward one. There. Okay. So the destination construction hotel parks, a lot of those are going to be different budgets for building. So we've talked a lot about your price per site, stuff like that. Your destination parks are obviously going to cost more per site. You want them to be nicer. You want them to be somewhere people want to be. Once they come in that gate, they don't leave. You want to provide that, pizza, burgers, food. You want to provide X, Y, and Z. That's going to require additional buildings. That's going to require a restaurant, a souvenir shop, so on and so forth. The construction parks are your mid-range parks. You need to make them nice. You need to make them comfortable, but they're not going to be as high end. You're not going to tailor to your audience as much, because they're there to sleep, go to work, and come back. And the hotel parks, if I'm going to a hotel park, if I'm going to an RV park specifically to go to something else in the area, I'm not going to care if there's a pool. I'm not going to care if there's a water park, if there's X, Y, and Z. My intent in being in that location is going somewhere else. We need to take budget into account when we look at that. A lot of the pricing that we've looked at thus far has been on either destination or construction parks. So far, everything we've looked at has had concrete pads, upgraded pedestals. A hotel park can be as simple as a gravel pad. As long as it's compacted properly, you won't have to worry about runoff. With that, you can get away a lot cheaper going on more of that route. You don't need the amenities. You don't need the upgraded pedestals. What is the Devil's Fork in Arkansas? It's a Army Corps.
So it's an Army Corps of Engineer park. All they have there is gravel pads, water, and power. That's all they have. But they're right on the lake. They're one of the few parks in the area that you can get sites that you walk out of your camper and walk off into the water. So that's
those can be built a lot cheaper. So I wanted to touch on that. We've talked about budget quite a bit.
Yes, the Army Corps of Engineer. Yes, sir. Yep. So one of the downsides, and that's where my park is coming in Arkansas. The Army Corps of Engineer parks, you can only be there for 14 days at a time. Those are the ones that after on your 14th day, you have to get out and go to a different site. And in some instances, you have to go to a completely different park. So that's one of the downsides of those parks. And if you can see a need in that area, which is what we did, and we're trying to capitalize on it.
We all have
Which parts? So for the project management side, there's 4 of us that do this. I mean, that's one of the requirements. Yes, sir. We get that a lot, actually. On the construction side, it really fluctuates, like Ethan was talking about, turnover rates super high. We've been as little as 2 guys, and we've been as much as 40 guys on the construction side.
And we try and keep a balanced crew as far as people on payroll and subcontractors. A lot of times, if you have too many employees in this industry doing what we do, you can drive up costs really quickly versus a subcontractor can come in and do it substantially cheaper. So we have relationships built with subcontractors willing to travel. I've got a guy that does X, Y, and Z. He'll go to these few states. Keeping those subcontractors close helps us mitigate costs in the building process, and keeping a certain number of employees, not too high, not too low, on payroll helps us take care of those out of scope jobs that this sub doesn't want to do, that sub doesn't want to do. So keeping a balanced crew, it helps out a lot in the cost process of it.
Some of the older parks have got, they're split between Class C.
Mhm.
Notice your parks all seem to be pretty much up to Class A's, right?
Yep.
40 foot.
Yes, sir. So that's kind of one of the things we have in our going over is when you're looking at these acquisitions, whether it be an existing park or you're wanting to go new, we'll talk more on the existing parks and the renovations. A lot of our older parks, they have a lot of problems with them because back in the day, you didn't see a 40-foot travel trailer that often. I mean, most of the campers in the early 80s, early 90s, your max length was 30 feet. And now you have guys that are coming in with 40-foot toy haulers and a 30-foot truck pulling them. So they don't have the room. So when you find these old parks that these guys are getting rid of, the reason why they're getting rid of them is because they don't have the space. And so one thing to consider is looking at it, how can we redesign this and use what's already there to maximize our profitability without having to just completely rip everything out and redo it. So,
and tagging on that, larger RVs, the picture that you see here was a renovation of a park that we were doing, because a lot of the equipment on the older parks is not suitable for newer RVs. In this case, they had a rigid metal pipe underground as a storm drain. They had their storm drains spaced throughout the park. The system worked. As new RVs started coming in, they get heavier, they get bigger. The rigid metal pipe was not able to sustain the weight. It was designed years and years ago for smaller equipment. There's not enough cover above it. The asphalt wasn't thick enough. So a lot of the renovation part of it is going and identifying the issues with older parks, undersized equipment. We had to come back in with concrete pipe. We had to come back in with a higher fill above the top, and we had to come in with a thicker layer of asphalt to accommodate that.
Yeah. So, well, and the great thing about a dog park is it's so easy to throw one in.
do that, or do they just take it shot?
So with that being said, one of the things that I'd want to look at is your area. If you have a 100 acres out in the middle of a field that's away from a national park or away from a big body of water or an event center, I would want to put as much stuff in there as I could to bring people in, whether that be a Whibbits course, um, indoor arcade, laser tag, different events. I would want to put as much of that in there as I possibly could. Because in all reality, that's where you're going to make your most money. We'll kind of skip, we'll skip ahead a little bit more. This is the budget for my phase one of my park that I'm building. As you can go through here and you see we have a Whibbits pond. It's $462,000. So Whibbits is, where is it at? Yeah, we got it right there. So this is what we call a Whibbits. So this is an obstacle course on the water. So what people do is they will pay to rent a life jacket for a time slot. Typically, it's a 45-minute time slot. And you let the kids or the adults, we get out there and play on these things. They're a blast.
Test it.
Yeah, we got to test it. So for example, and we'll go back to here. On my, where's my RV sites? On my RV sites, I've got 71 standard, 32 premium. I'm spending right at $2 million, a little over $2 million on RV sites. I'm spending $500,000 on that Whibbits pond and the Whibbits. With that Whibbits pond, I can make more money in a weekend than I can my RV sites in most cases. So the RV sites gets them there. The amenities is where you can really make your money. It's just like we said at the beginning of the presentation. There's a park up north that made $1 million, or I didn't say make $1 million. They grossed $1 million in ice cream sales alone. Ice cream. So, oh man, it's okay. You just swim around every once in a while, and that scares them off. But yeah, so we have that, and I wish we would have had. Well, okay. I've got an arcade and a laundry room. My park is dedicated to have people because I'm in an area where you have those 14-day rules. A lot of people will pay for a storage site, and when they're coming up, move their camper from the storage site to the RV site, but they can't stay there for 14 days at a time. My park, I'm renting spots out by the month if necessary. People can stay there year round. So we want to make sure that they can do their laundry. They can do things like that. It's in our phase two, but we have an outdoor movie theater. We have an amphitheater. We have a lot of these things where we can bring in people. And the one thing about amenities is you're not limiting yourself just to your RV sites being sold out. Our Whibbits pond, our guests come first, but anybody that's in the area can come and get a day pass to play on the Whibbits pond, play on our Ninja Warrior course, play on things like that. So your amenities is where you can make the most money. Your RV sites are what gets them there and keeps them there. So I hope that kind of answers your question a little bit.
In doing a strong market study of the area as well, the park in Bryan that we're talking about, it's kind of placed off from the city. It's down a road that kind of jets off to the west. There's not much there, but what was done is an intense market study of the area and where the city will be growing in the next 5 to 10 years. So knowing how much of your park to allocate to amenities is going to be very dependent on the growth of the area. If we put something right in between, I don't know how familiar you are with College Station, but Navasota's just south. You're about 25 minutes south. There is a stretch of land between South College Station and North Navasota that nothing is there. But there is development planned to where those two cities will eventually join. Looking into the future with that market research, that's going to tell you a little bit more on how many amenities to put in. It may be a slower start, but you'll be able to make your money back once that development happens. If there's no development planned, or like he was saying, if you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, that one in Waller, there's no development happening nearby and there's no planned development. The highway will develop a little bit more. You're not going to get any more amenities. that park is going to continue to improve and grow their amenity footprint on their park to provide more for guests because the area around it is not.
That first number, 58,585.
58,000. Yes. Yes, sir.
That's land possibly building a RV park.
Mhm.
Years ago, out near Tahoe.
Okay.
And I guess my question is, what is the viability of having an RV park?
So is there you're talking Tahoe. So you've got ski resorts and stuff like that. The one that we have in Colorado Springs, and there's another one that I've done work for just north of Colorado Springs. It's in oh man. Telluride, Colorado, I believe is where it was at. They get snowed out. They have to shut their park at certain points in time of the year because it snows so much. But what those guys do is they allocate as much stuff because there's so much stuff to do in that area that throughout their summer, their fall, summer, and spring, they get as much traffic as they possibly can. And if you can, so that's something that we try to take into consideration whenever we're building to be able to winterize these things, to blow all the water out of the lines or use materials that if the water does freeze, you're not going to have to be digging things up and replacing pipes and so on and so forth.
So like the park in Arkansas, obviously we're anticipating snow. Because of that, we're not doing total pedestals. We're doing a separate water valve. So your pedestal will supply you with power. We're going to have frost-free faucets that are going to be installed within a foot or two of that pedestal. So planning ahead, mitigating some of those issues before they happen. If we install these, it's going to cost us $50 more per site, but it's going to save us from a busted line in the future. So taking those considerations of location to account when building, they will kind of save in the long run. It's just a planning deal.
I guess you could have radiant like elements put in the pad.
So for the pads, we haven't had too much issue. If you're talking about radiant heat for like the water themselves, again, it's one of those things to where you have to calculate your risk versus reward. Is it worth me renting out 3 sites and potentially busting 20 lines? No, obviously. So I'm going to close my park and blow all the water out of the lines to allow that to not happen. But like Jake was saying, in Arkansas, we plan on renting our stuff out in the winter. Grant you, we're not going to get as much snow as like you're going to get in Tahoe. But we're putting in the measures to mitigate as much risk as possible with those frost-free spigots. So what those do is they get below the frost level. Up there, it's going to be a lot higher than what we've got in Arkansas, but there's no water above ground. Once you shut that valve off, all of the water that is in that valve drains out into the ground, so you don't have to risk anything freezing. So,
and a lot of regular RVers also are prepared for stuff like that. In Colorado, there's like skirts that will go around an RV. They're insulated skirts that some are permanently mounted, some can be Velcroed or attached on, but that skirt will drop down. It'll cover all of your sewer and everything. It'll kind of keep it contained. So part of that is avid RVers are going to know how to take care of that, or setting up warnings or advisories when the park is open. If it's below this degree, we recommend doing this. It's just, there's going to be a very high added cost to add a heated slab and stuff like that throughout an entire park versus offering advisories or advice, or even shutting the park down for a season.
Nice. I think we kind of skipped around and went a little bit everywhere, but I think that's just about all that we have. So, if there's any more questions, we're open and we're willing to answer anything that we can. Yeah.
Per site, you're saying what's the average number?
So per site, you're anywhere from 15 to 25, and that's a very, very rough number. Very, very rough. Yep. How much you put into it, it can be as high as 45, 50,000 per site. and it can be as low as 10,000 per site, depending on what you're going to do.
Second company, sites can fit on 1 acre comfortably without
And that's another thing that's what are you looking for? If you're looking to fit as many in there as you can, 10 per acre is about the max that we recommend doing. But if you're looking for more of a destination park versus a hotel or a work-related commercial park, that's gonna go down, and you're gonna look at, anywhere from 7 to 8 or even 5 per acre. So, anybody else have any other questions or?
You could go back to the secure your land. One thing that we hadn't hit on too much. I mean, obviously, y'all are all agents. Y'all are all dealing with people looking to purchase, whether it be a park or a property to build. Knowing what to look for on your land is going to be really, really important. The land that we have in Arkansas, we went into this knowing kind of what we were looking at, but the elevation change from end to end of the park is very drastic. That's going to result in additional costs during construction. Looking more for flatter land or land that's cleared will save money during the build. So as you're pitching to clients, as you're talking to people about what to get, what to look for, keep eyes out for flat land. Keep eyes out for land that's relatively clear. If you can find something like that as a good deal, that may be a consideration. Or if y'all are in the market, keep eyes open for land that would be suitable for a flat park. If not, know that the land can be designed. Just because the elevation change is so drastic doesn't mean that there's dirt work that can't be done to design your land to your needs. That's just going to be a cost in your budget that you need to take into consideration. For us, we're going to be doing a lot of this work. We know what's going to go into the manufacturing of the land. We're going to be doing a lot of cutting out from higher slopes. We're going to be doing a lot of filling in the low-lying areas, and we're going to tailor the land to what we need just because of the location, because of the deal that we got. If we were in an ideal scenario, we would shop around, try and find land that would require less manicuring, something that's suitable for an RV park. There's a lot of thought that goes into stuff like this. You're towing a massive camper, and with a general truck, you're pulling a camper, going down the highway. It's fine. Everything's flat. Everything's good. If you start building on a very high elevation, take into account that people are going to be going up and down those with large units. So shopping your land, finding the appropriate location for what you're wanting is going to be really, really important.
And yeah, just to go ahead.
Guys also done a weekend site.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Is it more challenging for you guys to preserve all the issues?
It's not more challenging for us. One of the biggest things that we have, the reason why we do a lot of concrete pads is just for the ability to level campers and make sure that they're level. Gravel pads are definitely a thing. For example, the park that we did in Kerrville, it was just faster and easier just to do gravel pads. That's what's always been there. The people loved it. They knew the challenges that come with it. So they were fine with keeping those pads gravel. So that is definitely something that can be done. Talking about the preserving nature and also hitting on what Jake talked about, the elevation. We have a park in Watts Bar, Tennessee that we've helped out with that. It's got some the elevation is very tricky. There's some flat areas and then there's some areas that are on the side of the cliff. There was a lot of dirt work done to maximize that area, but also utilize the beauty of that land. So there's different stair steps, different levels. So it's not something that can't be done. It's just to take into consideration, there's going to be a lot more cost in with that. Yes, sir. On the ground, you're not supposed to. It's kind of one of those gray areas to be funny about it. But it's definitely not recommended. Most of the time, all your gray water is just dishwater. But a lot of these parks don't want you dumping just gray water on the ground because you get the people that don't know the difference and they're just going to let their sewer tank rip open, and it's a mess. So it's very, and I'm not going to say it's not legal. It's just very frowned upon, especially inside an RV park.
that and learning how to utilize the land that you're working with is also very key. Um, so there was talk about so that's really loud. There was talk about a tiny home village versus an RV park, stuff like that. You can make a multi-function RV park, just like the one that we had in Bryan. They've got both RV sites and tiny homes. The one, the Jellystone and Waller, they've got tent camping, they've got cabins, and they've got RV sites. Diversifying your park and utilizing the space and the land that you've got, or shopping for something that you can put all three on, is going to allow higher profits once the park opens. It's going to make it more desirable. You can bring in people from different people who desire different things out of your RV park. They may not own a RV. They may not want to tent camp. You can provide a cabin. So diversifying your park, utilizing the land as best you can, would be very beneficial in your profits.
Mhm.
Okay, so when someone called Steve's clients called him, and they're looking for Steve's done his property, and said, you consider this for this for my property.
Do you have a mic?
No, I can yell. So if hang on, turn it up.
Push it straight up.
Thank you. How's that? Is that better? Is that better? Better? Louder? Okay. If one of Steve's clients called him, they were working or looking at a particular piece of property, and Steve said, I know these guys that do construction. What service could your company provide Steve and his client at that point? Like, would you go look at the land and say, yeah, I don't think so, or yeah, maybe you could do this and that?
Yeah, 100%. We do consultations all over the place. So if it's something to a point to where you have a potential client and we're like, man, we really think this is going to be good for an RV park, but we're just not sure. If you think it's a really serious client, we'll drive anywhere in the Texas area for free. For free. For free. If you get outside of Texas, we're gonna have to talk about it a little bit. It's gonna have to be a serious conversation. But we'll do your consultations for free. I mean, that's no big deal. Now, it's not us going to be designing you an RV park, but we'll come out and walk it with you and say, yeah, we think we could do something here. No, we need to look at something else. Once we you're talking about like a brochure, like if we were to come to your land, let's just say you got 10 acres. Yeah, so what we can do is while we're there, we bring our drone with us. We can fly up, look at kind of the property layout, and we can talk about, okay, just quick drop. Hey, we can do this here, this here, this here, this here. Again, it's all going to be preliminary until we get in there with an actual survey. But yes, that's 100% something we can do. Yeah. So one thing we use, because we're avid hunters, is we use onX, which is the same thing as Land ID. We can get the property boundaries and see who owns that property and all this and that right on our phone. It's called onX. onX. Yes. So yeah, it's just an app on our phone. It's a big hunting app is the thing about it, but it does the exact same thing as Land ID does. Yeah, exactly. Make sure you're not poaching. So, anybody else have any other questions or they want answered or? We do. Yes, sir. Yeah, we work in the all of continental US. If you want to take it to Hawaii, we'll definitely consider it. So, but yes.
Listen, the education for me, I didn't know all that stuff. But I do have clients that are looking, and for me, knowing how to talk to them, I have no idea what to say. And it's an RV park, and so this has been a good education for me. I appreciate everybody coming. I wouldn't hesitate to use them you know, y'all can take a phone call.
Yeah.
Just have a question.
Phone numbers are on the brochures and the cards. If y'all have a question, comment, anything of the sort, shoot us a text. We're available. Even if it's just a quick, hey, my client's asking this, can you advise on this?
I have been told that RV parks are a bit of a cash cow. But based on this presentation, it depends on what you're offering as well. Because if somebody's shopping RV parks, they're going to look in terms of what the amenities are, especially in terms of, in my case, internet. I have a neighbor who just sold her house. She lived behind me. She just sold her house, and because of COVID, she didn't have to go to the office anymore. So she got herself, I think she got herself kind of just a big van. She's going to KOAs, RV parks, or wherever, get parking, and she works from there. And with online banking, you don't have to worry about it either, because we're just depositing into that account, and I never even go to the banking. I don't know about you. So, you know, it is something that is happening and coming. So, gentlemen, we sincerely appreciate y'all coming.
Appreciate y'all having us.
Feel free, I'm sure you can come up here and talk to me. I'd like to have just kind of a conversation with them in terms of how I can talk to my client and make a presentation to them on, you know, selling them on RV parks. And like I said, I've already got one that's asking me. So, all right, anybody else have anything? And Claire's not here, so you have to put up with me in the front. So Claire's down in the back, and I'm taking her to the chiropractor the other day, and she's already set up a month of meetings with the chiropractor. So, you know, think of me with nice thoughts.
What did you do to her? What did you do to her?
Yeah.
What did you do to her?
Tripped her.
Push her downstairs.
I have back, but I think it was contagious, and now she's got it.
It's
I
contagious.
should thank her.
Yeah.
All
There's a
right,
vaccine for that.
gentlemen, thank you very much.
And thank you.